My name is Renata Vale. I'm 56, and I run a small bridal alteration studio out of my garage. I spend my days rescuing gowns from last-minute disasters. I've stitched away storms for other families. I never imagined the worst storm of my life would hit on my own son's wedding day before sunrise with one touch to my head. I woke up bald, not thinning. Not a bad cut, smooth, cold, like a porcelain plate. I sat up so fast the room tilted. My hand skimmed my scalp as if a patch might be hiding. Nothing. My pillowcase, white and freshly ironed for the big weekend, was an autumn yard after the wind, covered in dark strands. For 3 ridiculous seconds, my brain bargained. Maybe I slept on Velcro. Maybe the cat— No, I don't own a cat. Hair does not politely evacuate a head in the night. The clock read 5:17 a.m. The ceremony was at 3. I was due at the hotel by 9 to steam dresses, pin my son's boutonniere, and kiss his forehead like when he was 5. I stared at my phone, the wallpaper of Max in his tux, and felt a terror I've never felt. Not because I am vain. Because my son deserved pictures with his mother, and this was not an option. I shuffled to the bathroom. The mirror wasn't kind, but it was honest. Pale scalp, stubborn face. On the counter sat my travel pump of shampoo. When I twisted the cap, a sharp chemical sweetness rose that didn't belong in my house. I rinsed the bottle. The water foamed into a thin, angry cream. I'd seen that formula when a bride brought me a veil scorched by a depilatory prank. The smell was the same. Perfumed apology over hate. I wrapped my head in a towel and reached for my phone to call Max. I froze. What would I say, honey? I'm bald. He'd spend his wedding morning trying to fix it. No. The one person who needed to hear from me was the woman marrying my son, Lena. We had never fought. We braided polite together. Hello kisses, shared recipes, jokes about Max's inability to fold towels. But polite isn't love, and love isn't trust. She liked to say, "Renata, you're so involved," with that laugh that buttons a criticism inside a compliment. I learned to step back. Be grateful she was kind to Max. Gratitude is a useful bandage. Our messages were a tidy row of logistics. I typed, erased, typed again. Before I could send anything, a notification exploded from an unknown number. Consider this your lesson. Today isn't about you, too specific to be spam. I opened it. No name, no emojis, just the sentence, and a photo from the rehearsal dinner, me tightening Max's tie while Lena watched in the background, face flat as still water. I scrolled. Another message at 2:41 a.m. while I slept. You'll finally learn to keep out of pictures. It came from a different number. The photo's angle was from the restaurant's far corner. Only family had been seated there. This could still be handled, with dignity, with stealth. I would not become the story on my son's day. I messaged my assistant Pilar, a genius with wigs and impossible timelines. Emergency. Bring everything. No questions. At my house in 20. She sent back a heart and 2 scissors. Then I texted Max. Good morning, love. I'll meet you at the hotel by 10 instead of 9, running late with a client's hem. Don't worry. Proud of you. He replied with a sleepy selfie. You're the best, Mom. I opened the guest bathroom cabinet because facts are kinder than suspicions. Behind the towel stood a duplicate of my shampoo. The label was bubbled, as if peeled and stuck again. I unscrewed the cap. The smell, sweet, wrong, rose like a ghost. In the trash, under a tissue, a half-torn box of hair removal cream. The kind every warning label begs you never to put near your head. For one wild second, grief and rage collided. Then the steadier part of me stood up, the part that has held needles between my teeth and saved a ceremony with 20 minutes to spare. I cleaned the counter. I packed my emergency kit. When Pilar came through the back door at 5:46, arms full of wig heads and hair pieces, she didn't gasp. She set everything on the kitchen table like a surgeon rolling in trays. Human hair, lace fronts, toppers. Cinnamon brown and dark ash, she said softly. We'll make you look like you. Make me look like me at 56 who slept, I said. While she prepped adhesive and lace, I called Vita, our neighborhood salon owner who owed me favors. I need a private room and your steadiest hands. In return, I'll alter every prom dress your nieces bring me. Back door in 15, she said. In the mirror above my sink, Pilar and I found me again. Short-layered bob, a touch lighter, soft movement around the face. If you didn't know, you wouldn't. I could attend my son's wedding without becoming a cautionary tale, but a wig solved the surface. Weddings are families, and families are riddles. The rot under the floorboards remained. I wrapped a silk scarf over the style and drove to Vida's. She blended the hairline with makeup that refuses cameras the satisfaction of truth. "Who did this?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," I lied. "Speaking guesses turns them into weapons. I'll let the day happen for Max. Then I'll know." On the way home, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "Stand back today. Don't ruin her photos." Attached was a candid of me years ago, pinning a veil on a crying bride. Someone had captioned me, main character, so that was the crime. Existing, loving my son with my whole spine, being visible at the edge of their perfect frame. I turned onto my street and saw, through the mudroom window, the tiny red dot of the motion camera I'd installed last year. A witness I hadn't consulted. I parked, pulled the camera's micro SD card, set the kettle on, tea makes courage patient, and slid the card into my laptop. Clip 1, hallway 1:58 a.m. Clip 2, 2:12. Then, at 2:39, a figure in a white satin robe stepped into view, paused at the guest bathroom, and turned toward the lens with a glance so fast you'd miss it if you weren't hunting. The face wasn't fully clear, but the profile, the jaw, and the sweep of hair at the temple made my breath hitch. My phone vibrated on the laminate, a new text from that burner number as the video froze on that jaw. "If you love Max, you'll keep your distance," the kettle screamed. I shut it off. The clock ticked toward a wedding. I poured my tea and texted the one person who could hear me without exploding my life, my sister Diana. "I need you at the hotel by 9. Smile like nothing's wrong, because nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to ruin my son's day. Not even the truth sharpening its knives in the next room. By the time I pulled into the hotel parking lot, the sun was slicing gold across the windshield. I sat there for a minute, fingers tight around the steering wheel, feeling the wig's invisible weight. I kept telling myself, "You look fine. You look strong." But inside, the question screamed. The last text still burned in my mind. "If you love Max, you'll keep your distance." I walked through the lobby, smiling like a woman who had slept 8 hours and aged backward overnight. The staff greeted me with warm eyes. They had no idea I was holding my head together with glue and grace. Upstairs, laughter echoed from the bridal suite. The bridesmaids, the photographer, and Lena, her voice crisp as sugar glass. I could always recognize it. It could slice a room without raising volume. When I stepped in, every head turned for a beat too long. Lena looked up from her makeup chair, hand midair with a brush. "Oh, Mrs. Vale," she said too brightly. "You look different," I smiled. "It's the lighting," I said. The makeup artist smiled nervously, sensing static in the air. I hugged 2 of the bridesmaids, strangers who still believed this day was about love. Then I turned to my future daughter-in-law. She stood from her chair, radiant in her robe, skin glowing, hair in perfect waves. And I knew. The wig she wore was the same shade, the same style, as mine had been. My stomach dropped. It wasn't coincidence. It was a message. She came close, smelling of roses and triumph. "You like it?" she asked softly, turning her head. I thought this color suited me better than the one I had before. It took every ounce of control not to flinch. "It's beautiful," I said. Behind her, the camera clicked. I was in the frame again. "Lena, honey, the photographer needs you by the window," the planner said. She smiled sweetly. "Yes, of course." When she turned, her robe shifted slightly, and I caught a faint line across her wrist. A raw mark, chemical burn. From gloves or maybe from something harsher. The puzzle clicked one notch tighter. She had handled the cream herself. Downstairs, Max was pacing in his tuxedo, face pale with joy and nerves. The moment he saw me, his eyes softened. "Mom, you look amazing," I hugged him tight. He felt the same as when he was a boy, same heartbeat, same warmth. "Don't ever forget, sweetheart," I whispered. "Love doesn't mean silence." He laughed, not understanding. "You're giving wedding day wisdom already?" I have plenty saved up, I said, patting his shoulder. The ceremony was flawless. Every petal fell like choreography. Every vow sounded like poetry. I watched my son's face as he looked at her, and I wanted to freeze him there before reality learned how to speak. Afterward, at the reception, people toasted, danced, laughed. I smiled through it all, a steady heartbeat of politeness. But inside, I was measuring each movement, watching Lena's every glance. She was careful, but not perfect. When she reached for champagne, her sleeve lifted again, the faint burn mark gleaming under the lights. When she leaned close to whisper to one of her bridesmaids, the girl's eyes darted toward me, uncomfortable. And when the photographer called, "Family of the groom," I stepped forward. Lena's smile froze. "Oh, we can just do you two first," she said quickly, gesturing to her parents. "Then we'll do the rest." But Max interrupted, cheerful and oblivious. "No, Mom's right here. Let's get one all together." For the first time all day, she faltered. We stood shoulder to shoulder. The photographer lifted his camera. Flash, flash. My son smiled. My daughter-in-law's smile strained like fabric too tight, and I smiled. Because the camera doesn't see truth, but it remembers expressions. After dinner, when the dancing started and the room blurred into glitter and laughter, I stepped outside for air. My scalp ached under the wig. My heart ached under everything else. That's when my sister Diana appeared beside me, quiet as ever. She slipped a folded paper into my hand. "You told me to smile and say nothing," she whispered. "But you should see this." It was a printout, a screenshot from social media. A private post tagged under a fake account. The caption read, "Some mothers never learn whose day it really is." The photo, me, from the rehearsal dinner. Someone had drawn devil horns above my head. And the account's name? Lena Lovestering. I exhaled slowly, letting the paper fold between my fingers. "Keep this safe," I told Diana. "If anything happens, you show it to Max." She touched my shoulder. "You sure you want to handle this alone?" "I've been handling alone since the day I gave birth," I said. When I went back inside, the bouquet toss was beginning. Lena stood in the middle of the room, laughing, twirling, her smile flawless again. The room loved her, but I'd learned long ago that applause can hide rot. Later, as guests began to leave, Max came up behind me. "Mom, you okay? You've been quiet." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired. Big day. Lena's parents invited us to brunch tomorrow. You'll come?" "I wouldn't miss it," I said, because tomorrow the masks would come off. And maybe, finally, my son would see who his wife really was. The next morning, the sky was dull and gray, like someone had dimmed the sun on purpose. I stared at my reflection in the mirror of my hotel room. The wig still held perfectly in place, but the woman beneath it looked tired, her eyes older, her smile tighter. Lena's brunch invitation wasn't just hospitality. It was another performance. I could feel it in my bones. She wanted to make sure I stayed in my place. The quiet mother-in-law, grateful to be tolerated. Not today. I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early. It was one of those sleek rooftop spots where everything smells like citrus and money. Lena's parents were already seated, two people who looked permanently impressed with themselves. When they saw me, the father gave a polite nod. The mother smiled too wide, like her face had been trained for it. "Mrs. Vale," Lena's mother said. "Congratulations. Wasn't the ceremony just beautiful?" "It was," I said, taking my seat. "You must be so proud of your daughter." She smiled again, but it faltered just a little, as if she wasn't sure how much I knew. Then Lena and Max arrived. He looked fresh, still glowing from the joy of the day before. But Lena, she had that same shine, that dangerous gleam in her eyes. She leaned in to kiss my cheek, her perfume almost chokingly sweet. "Morning, Mrs. Vale," she said. "Did you sleep well?" I met her gaze. "Like a baby," I said softly. "You?" Her smile flickered. "I always sleep well." I could have sworn I saw her eyes dart to my hairline for a fraction of a second, checking to see if her lesson had held. As we ate, the conversation was light, trips, future plans, the honeymoon. I stayed quiet, watching her. The way she rested her hand on Max's, too possessive. The way she spoke about our future home without once using, "We'll visit your mother." At one point, Max laughed. "Lena wants to start looking at houses near her parents." It's closer to her office, but we'll visit you all the time, Mom. Lena's eyes sparkled as she said, "Of course we will. Family is everything." I smiled politely, but the teacup trembled slightly in my hand. Then Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly, then turned the screen face down on the table, just for a moment too long. I caught a glimpse of the contact name before she flipped it. Amber Hair Studio. Amber Hair Studio. I had never heard her mention that name, but I knew that logo. I'd seen it printed on the box of hair removal cream I found in my trash. I folded my napkin slowly. "Excuse me," I said. "I'll be just a minute." Outside on the terrace, I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, and zoomed in on the reflection of her phone in the restaurant window. The name was still visible. I took a photo. Then I opened my notes and typed the timestamp. Evidence. When I came back to the table, the waitress was bringing dessert. Lemon tarts shining like gold coins. Lena leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "So, Mrs. Vale, what will you do with all your free time now that Max is married? You've always been so busy with him." Her tone was syrupy, but the words cut like glass. I smiled. "Oh, don't you worry, dear. I'm already working on something new. It's quite a project. You might say it's about cleaning up old messes." Her smile froze. I caught it, the flicker of fear in her eyes. Just a blink, but enough. Max looked between us, confused. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," I said. "Absolutely perfect." Later that afternoon, back home, I went straight to my sewing room, the one space that had always been mine. I turned on the lamp, pulled out my laptop, and opened the camera footage again. I re-watched that 2-second glance at the lens. Then I paused it and zoomed. On her wrist, the faint burn mark, same spot, same pattern. Then, in the reflection of the bathroom mirror behind her, a faint shadow, someone standing in the doorway. My heart jumped. I enhanced the image. It wasn't Max. The build was smaller, feminine. Lena hadn't acted alone. I sent the still frame to Diana. "Find out who this could be. Ask quietly." 10 minutes later, she called. "Renata, you're not going to like this. That woman works at the Amber Hair Studio. She's the receptionist. Lena's been going there for months. So the connection wasn't a coincidence. The product, the message, the phone call, it all tied together. And suddenly, the next message came through on my phone. No name, just a single line. "You should have stayed quiet, old woman. You'll regret digging." I looked at it for a long time. Then I smiled, the same calm, patient smile I used when brides had meltdowns before their weddings. I typed back, "I don't bury things. I fix them." Then I turned off my phone, unplugged the camera, and reached for my car keys. Tomorrow, I would visit Amber Hair Studio myself. And this time, I wasn't going to pretend nothing had happened. When I pulled up outside Amber Hair Studio, it looked painfully ordinary. Soft pink signage, a few potted plants, a walk-ins welcome sticker on the glass. But the ordinary has a way of hiding what's rotten underneath. I sat there for a minute, watching through the windshield. Inside, a woman with long blonde hair stood behind the counter, scrolling on her phone. A second woman, younger, dark hair, was sweeping near the chairs. I recognized her. She was the same shadow from the reflection in the video. My pulse quickened, but my voice stayed calm when I finally stepped inside. The bell over the door gave a friendly chime, almost mocking. "Good morning," the blonde receptionist said brightly. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," I said, smiling. "I'm here to ask about a special treatment your client Lena booked a few weeks ago." The woman blinked. "Lena?" "Lena Vale, my daughter-in-law." Her expression flickered. She recovered quickly, but I saw it, that half-second of recognition. "Oh, yes, Mrs. Vale, I remember her. What about her appointment?" "I'm thinking of getting the same treatment," I said. "She said you used something wonderful for her hair, made it glow." The woman hesitated. "We just used a regular toning cream, ma'am." "Could I see which one?" "I like to know what's going on my skin." Her eyes darted to the back room. "I'm not sure we have any samples left." I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "You really should be careful what products you use. Some of them remove more than color." Her face drained of color. Before she could answer, the younger stylist came out of the back, holding a tray of brushes. She froze when she saw me. Her lips parted slightly. "Can I help you?" she asked quietly. Yes, I said, locking eyes with her. You were at my house last week. The room went still. The receptionist's hand trembled slightly on the counter. I don't know what you mean, the girl said. You should, I replied. You're the one who delivered the box, she swallowed hard. Look, Mrs. Vale, we didn't mean, the receptionist cut her off sharply. Go sweep the back room, Ava. The girl hesitated, then disappeared through the curtain. I turned back to the blonde. You can tell your client I understand her message, I said softly. But she might not like the one she gets in return. Then I walked out. Outside, the air felt different, heavier, charged. I sat in my car and typed a message to Diana. Confirmed. Salon involved. Keep copies of everything. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, I answered. A slow, venomous voice. You shouldn't have gone there. Who is this? You think you're clever, don't you? You ruined the mood yesterday, and now you're snooping. If you don't stop, everyone will know what you did to your own husband. My stomach tightened. Who are you? But the line went dead. That night, Max called. Mom, what happened today? Lena's upset. She said you confronted people at her salon? I didn't confront anyone, I said carefully. I asked questions. Mom, please, he sighed. She's trying so hard to make peace with you. Can't you just give her a chance? I closed my eyes. I gave her a chance, Max, and she used it to humiliate me. Humiliate you? What are you talking about? I wanted to tell him everything. The cream, the photo, the threats. But his voice was so tired, so desperate to keep his world perfect. Nothing, sweetheart, I said softly. Forget I said anything. Please don't ruin this, Mom, he said, almost pleading. Lena's my wife now. After he hung up, the house felt enormous and empty. I stood at the kitchen counter, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message, you should have kept quiet at brunch. Next time, you'll lose more than hair. This time, I didn't reply. I simply screenshotted. It forwarded it to Diana and saved it to the evidence folder. Then I went to my closet, opened the top drawer, and pulled out a small black recorder, the same one I had used when Max was a child to record his piano recitals. I turned it on and placed it under the hallway table near the door. If they wanted to threaten me, they'd have to do it face to face. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. When I checked the camera feed, my breath caught. Lena, standing on my porch, flowers in her hands. I opened the door slowly. Hi, Mrs. Vale, she said sweetly. I wanted to apologize for everything. I know we got off on the wrong foot. I stepped aside. Come in. She walked in, her perfume filling the hallway like smoke. She set the flowers on the table. I brought you these, peace offering? They're lovely, I said. You always pick the perfect presentation. She smiled, but her eyes narrowed slightly. You look good, by the way. Better than I expected. I heal fast, I said. We stood there, silence thick between us. Then she sighed dramatically. Look, I'll be honest. I didn't like how close you were to Max. He's my husband. I wanted my own place, my own control. Maybe I handled it wrong. But the hair thing, that wasn't me. Then who was it? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe you should be asking yourself why people don't like you, Mrs. Vale. I tilted my head. And maybe you should be asking why I'm recording this conversation. Her face went white. What? I pointed to the blinking red light on the table. Smile for the camera, Lena. She spun around, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the door, but not before whispering, You'll regret this. I already regret raising a son blind enough to marry you, I said quietly as she slammed the door. When she was gone, I took the recorder and plugged it into my computer. Her voice was crystal clear. Threats, lies, confessions, everything. I backed it up 3 times, sent 1 copy to Diana, 1 to my lawyer, and kept the 3rd on a flash drive around my neck. because this war wasn't about hair anymore. It was about truth. And by the time it ended, only one of us would still have a reputation left to protect. That night, the rain started without warning, thick, relentless, drumming against the roof like it wanted to get in. I sat by the window, clutching a cup of tea that had long gone cold, staring at the faint glow of the flash drive on my laptop. Lena's voice echoed from the recording again and again. Maybe you should be asking yourself why people don't like you. I hit pause. The room went silent except for the storm. Something inside me clicked into place. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was awake. For years, I'd let people, my husband, my son, even strangers, decide how much of my life I was allowed to own. But that ended the moment I woke up bald on my son's wedding day. And if Lena thought humiliation was the only weapon, in this fight, she was about to learn what experience looked like. The next morning, I drove to the small law office 2 towns over. My old friend, Mr. Jacobs, was still practicing, though now he walked with a cane and had reading glasses that kept slipping down his nose. "Renata Vale," he said, smiling when I entered. "Haven't seen you in years. What brings you here?" "Insurance and inheritance," I said calmly, setting a folder on his desk. "I want to update everything. If something happens to me, if I die suddenly, if there's an accident, I want every cent I have to go directly to my niece, Diana." "Nothing for Max." His smile faded. "That's a drastic change, Renata." "I'm aware." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You've always been smart. I'll draw up the new will and finalize the signatures tomorrow. Anything else?" "Yes," I said. "I also need to file a complaint." That afternoon, I stopped by the salon again. This time, I didn't go in. I parked across the street, watching. At 4:10, Lena arrived. She wasn't alone. The same receptionist came out to greet her, and together they carried a box into the back. I took photos, time-stamped, geotagged, every detail captured. As I sat there, my phone rang. "Max, Mom," he said, his voice tight. "Lena's upset again. She says you're stalking her now?" I exhaled slowly. "No, Max. I'm protecting myself." "Protecting yourself from what?" "She's your daughter-in-law. She's trying—" "To destroy me," I interrupted quietly. There was silence, then a frustrated sigh. "You've changed, Mom. You used to love her." "I used to believe you were happy," I said. "Now I know better." "Please," he said. "Just stop. You're making everything worse." "Maybe," I replied softly. "Or maybe I'm finally making it right." I hung up before he could answer. That night, I placed all my evidence, photos, recordings, phone logs, into a labeled envelope. I slid it into a fireproof box under my desk. Then I called Diana. "Tomorrow morning," I told her, "I'm giving everything to Mr. Jacobs. If anything happens to me, he knows who to call." She was silent for a long time. "Aunt Renata, do you think she'll actually try something?" "I don't think, dear," I said. "I know." The next morning, my front doorbell rang just after 9 a.m. I checked the camera feed and froze. It was Max, alone. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his tie crooked. I hesitated, then unlocked the door. "Mom," he said, his voice hoarse. "We need to talk." He came inside and dropped onto the couch, rubbing his temples. "Lena's missing." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, missing?" "She didn't come home last night. She left the salon early. Her car was found near the bridge, door open, purse inside." I stared at him. "Did you call the police?" "Of course. They're investigating." He looked up at me, eyes wet. "I know you two hated each other, but please, please tell me you didn't." I cut him off sharply. "Max!" He flinched. "I am not your villain," I said firmly. "Your wife did things you can't imagine, but I would never hurt her." He buried his face in his hands. I don't know what to believe anymore. That evening, the police came. 2 officers, polite but cautious. "Mrs. Vale," one said, We're conducting interviews regarding the disappearance of Lena Vale. We understand you had some recent disagreements. I gave them everything. The threats, the messages, the recording. The younger officer frowned as he listened to the audio. She actually said you'd regret this? Yes, I said, and she wasn't the type to make idle threats. They took my statement and left, but as their car disappeared down the street, I felt no relief, only the creeping realization that something about this story wasn't done. At midnight, I woke to a sound outside, a faint scraping near the back window. My pulse spiked. I grabbed the flashlight and crept down the hall. Through the curtains, I saw movement, a shadow, a figure. I switched on the light. There she was, Lena, her face pale, her eyes wild, rain dripping from her hair. She looked half crazed. Before I could speak, she pressed her palm against the glass. "You ruined everything," she hissed. Then she ran into the dark. The next morning, the police called again. They'd found her car, this time burned out, miles away with traces of accelerant. They asked me if she'd contacted me. I told them the truth, but deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. Lena wasn't done yet. She was just getting started. By the third morning after Lena's disappearance, the entire neighborhood buzzed with half-truths. The Vale house, once the model of calm suburbia, had turned into a curiosity. Reporters parked at the end of the street, the camera lenses glinting like unblinking eyes. I stood behind my curtain, coffee growing cold in my hand, watching one of them knock on my gate. "Mrs. Vale," a man shouted, "is it true you and your daughter-in-law fought before she went missing?" I didn't answer. I simply closed the blinds and turned on the small recorder hanging around my neck. Every noise, every knock, every word, it all went on record now. The phone rang, not the cell but the landline, an old habit I'd never broken. I picked up. "Mrs. Vale?" It was the detective, calm and professional. "We found something near the burned vehicle. A piece of jewelry, a bracelet with the letter L, and a torn receipt from Amber Hair Studio. Does that mean anything to you?" "Yes," I said. "It means she wanted to leave a trail." There was a pause on the line. "You think she staged it?" "I don't think," I replied. "I know." That night, I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by files, screenshots, printouts. The rain had returned, steady, unrelenting. I'd always loved storms. They drowned out the noise of the world. But tonight, it felt as if the sky itself wanted to wash everything away. I played the recording of her last visit again, listening to her voice tremble when she realized I'd caught her. "You'll regret this." I leaned back, whispering to the empty room. "No, Lena. I already did my regretting years ago." Then a soft vibration on the counter. My phone lit up. "Unknown number." The message appeared in pieces, one bubble after another. "You told the police, didn't you? You think you're safe now? Check your mirror, Mommy Vale." A knock came at the door. I froze, heart hammering. It was Max. He looked worse than before, stubble, sleepless eyes, tie loosened. "Mom, the police think she's dead." I said nothing. "They found traces of blood in the car, but they can't confirm whose it is yet." His voice cracked. I can't believe this is happening." "Sit down," I said gently. "You need to rest." He sank into the chair across from me. "The officers said you gave them recordings." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me." "Mom, Max," I interrupted, my tone sharp but not cruel. "The woman you married lied, manipulated, and tried to destroy everything I built. Now she's trying to make me look like her killer." He looked up, eyes wide. "You think she's alive?" "I think she wants me behind bars before she comes back." At dawn, I met with Mr. Jacobs again. He listened carefully as I laid out the new messages. "Renata," he said slowly, "if she's still contacting you, we can trace the pings through the service provider." "It would prove she's alive." "Do it," I said. "And make copies of everything for the police." He nodded. "And your will, it's filed. Diana is listed as sole beneficiary." "Good." I signed the final page with a steady hand. That afternoon, I drove to the bakery district on the other side of town. The smell of yeast and sugar used to calm me. Now it only reminded me of the scent of chemical cream that had burned my scalp. I parked across from a shop and scrolled through my messages again. There, another one. Still enjoying your reflection? Attached was a photo of me taken through the cafe window. I looked up fast. No one obvious. Just faces, cars, umbrellas. I forwarded it to Detective Ramos. She's watching me. Within minutes, he replied, "We're tracing the source." Stay inside, but I didn't go home. Not yet. Across the street, in the reflection of a glass storefront, a shape moved, dark hair, slender frame, familiar posture. For a heartbeat, I saw her face, pale, smiling. Then she was gone. That night, I packed a small overnight bag, just essentials. A sweater, the flash drive, my recorder, a few documents. I left a note on the kitchen table. If you find this, I'm not running. I'm ending it. I drove toward the old bridge where they'd found her car. The storm had stopped, but fog clung to the ground like ghosts refusing to leave. Halfway across, my headlights caught a figure standing by the railing. A woman, hair whipping in the wind. I stopped the car and stepped out slowly. "Lena," I called. She turned. Her face was pale, eyes gleaming like glass. "So you finally came," she said. "You've gone too far." "You took everything from me," she hissed. "Max, my job, my name. I just wanted you to feel small. You made me bald on my son's wedding day." Her smile widened. It worked, didn't it? I took a step forward. "This ends tonight." She laughed, a sound that sent a chill through the fog. "You won't tell anyone what happens here." She moved first, too fast, too close. I stumbled back, grabbed the flashlight from my pocket, and shone it directly in her face. She flinched, slipping on the wet concrete. Her heel hit the edge of the railing. She gasped. For a second, I saw fear, real fear in her eyes. "Lena!" I shouted, reaching out, but she was already gone. The sound of water swallowed everything. Hours later, the police lights painted the fog red and blue. Divers pulled her body from the river before sunrise. Detective Ramos found me sitting in the car, soaked, shaking. "Mrs. Vale," he said softly, "we reviewed your messages, your recordings, everything." "It's clear she planned to frame you," I nodded numbly. "It's over now," he hesitated. "You're free to go, ma'am, but if you ever need to talk, I will," I said, though I knew I never would. Weeks later, the house felt lighter. No shadows, no threats. My hair had begun to grow back, short, silver, defiant. I stood in front of the mirror one morning and almost smiled. "See?" I whispered to my reflection. "I told you I'd heal." Then the doorbell rang. On the doorstep was a small envelope. No return address. Inside, one photograph, a close-up of the bridge at night. And on the back, written in smeared ink, "Did you really think I'd drown that easily?" The photo slipped from my hand. The wind caught it, carried it to the floor, and I realized the message wasn't over. It was only the beginning of another story. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind outside felt like her voice, mocking, waiting. By dawn, my coffee had gone cold twice. I sat by the kitchen window, staring at that photograph again. The message on the back was written with the same sharp slant Lena always used when she was angry. "Did you really think I'd drown that easily?" No signature, no date, but the ink was still fresh. That meant someone had delivered it recently. I checked the security camera feed. At 3:14 a.m., a shadow passed across the porch light, small frame, hood pulled low, moving fast. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. There it was again, her gait, that confident half-step she used to have when she thought no one was watching. I called Detective Ramos immediately. "She's alive," I said flatly. There was a pause, then his calm, cautious voice. "Mrs. Vale, are you certain?" "The body we pulled was matched through dental records." Then the records were switched. I cut him off. "She's playing with us," he sighed. "We'll send someone over to check the footage." I knew that tone. It was the same tone Max used when he didn't believe me. By noon, the detective's car pulled into the driveway. 2 officers reviewed my footage, exchanged looks, and one of them muttered, "Could be a trick of the light." I stood behind them, gripping my arms. A trick of the light doesn't write notes, the older one turned. We'll increase patrols in the area, Mrs. Vale. In the meantime, try to stay calm. Stay calm. That was easy for them to say. I waited until they left, then locked every door and window, pulled the blinds, and took the envelope to my office. I laid it flat under a lamp, studied the writing. The letters were shaky this time, not her usual crisp script, but the pressure marks, the way she dug into the paper, those were hers. The rage, the precision. I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and began typing. If she's alive, she's either desperate or planning something worse. I need proof the police can't ignore. That evening, Max called. His voice sounded hollow. "Mom," he said, "I went through some of Lena's old files. There's something weird. You should see it." "What is it?" "She had a safety deposit box. Under her maiden name, my stomach turned cold." "Where?" "Downtown. I got the call because I'm her husband. The bank said someone tried to access it this morning." "Who?" "They wouldn't tell me without ID verification." I closed my eyes. "Max, listen to me carefully. You have to let me go there first." "Mom, no. If she's really alive. If she's alive, she won't expect me." The next morning, I parked 2 blocks from the bank and watched from my car. The city was waking up, horns, footsteps, the smell of coffee from a nearby cafe. At 9:05 a.m., a woman walked out of the bank wearing a beige coat, dark glasses, hair pulled into a bun. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. But then she turned her head, and I saw the thin scar by her left temple. The one she'd gotten years ago from a curling iron. Lena, she was alive. She crossed the street quickly. Clutching a small metal box, I started the car and followed, keeping distance. She turned down a side alley near the old industrial district, an abandoned warehouse zone. I parked at the corner and got out quietly. The air smelled of rust and rain. I slipped between 2 buildings and saw her kneel near a drainage grate, pulling something from the box, papers, photos, a flash drive. She shoved them into a plastic bag and tucked it behind a loose brick. Then she stood up, looked around, and her eyes met mine. For a split second we froze. Then she ran. "Lena!" I shouted, my voice echoing against the metal walls. She darted down the alley, shoes splashing through puddles. I chased her, heart pounding so hard it hurt. She reached the end of the lane and turned sharply, straight into a man stepping out from behind a dumpster. It was Detective Ramos. He grabbed her arm before she could move. "Lena Vale, you're under arrest for arson, fraud, and obstruction of justice," she screamed, thrashing wildly. "You don't understand. She's lying. She tried to kill me." Ramos glanced back at me. "You okay, Mrs. Vale?" I nodded, chest heaving. The detectives' team handcuffed her. She kept shouting, "You'll regret this. You'll all regret this," as they dragged her toward the car. I stood there, rain soaking through my jacket, watching her disappear behind flashing lights, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. 2 weeks later, I received the call from the prosecutor's office. "She's agreed to a plea deal," they said. "Confessed to everything. The sabotage at the salon, the threats, even falsifying the dental records to fake her death." I closed my eyes. "What about the message?" "She said she wanted to scare you, said you deserved to know how it feels to lose control." I hung up without replying. That night, I sat by the window again, watching the rain. My reflection in the glass looked older now, but stronger too. My hair had grown enough to curl at the edges. The door creaked open behind me. Max stepped in quietly. "Mom," he said, voice low. "I'm sorry. For not believing you," I turned. He looked so much like his father in that moment, tired, remorseful, human. "You see now," I said softly. "Some people love control more than they love family." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I do now." I reached for his hand and squeezed it gently. "Then let's start over." He smiled, a small, sad smile, and sat beside me. We watched the rain together, not speaking. For the first time in a long time, the silence felt clean. But outside, across the street, in the reflection of a puddle under the streetlight, something moved, a flicker of shadow, the glint of a lens. Someone was watching, and deep inside, I knew this story wasn't finished. The next morning, I woke to the faint hum of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. It wasn't Max or the police. It was an unknown number again. I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart thudding. After weeks of believing this nightmare was over, one simple vibration pulled me back into it. I took a breath and answered. A pause. Then a soft voice. "Mrs. Vale, you don't know me, but you should listen carefully." "Who is this?" "I worked at the jail where Lena was held." "She's gone." My blood ran cold. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "They said it was a transfer." "But the paperwork doesn't match. The van never reached the facility she was assigned to. Her lawyer's missing too." I gripped the phone tighter. "Are you saying she escaped?" The woman hesitated. "I'm saying someone wanted her gone, either out or erased." "Be careful, ma'am." The line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The world outside was quiet, too quiet. By noon, reporters had returned, circling like vultures. Max showed up at my doorstep, his face pale. "Mom, I just got the call. They said Lena escaped during transport." "You knew, didn't you?" I nodded slowly. "They never should have underestimated her. She's dangerous." "What if she comes after you again?" "She already has." I handed him the photo that had arrived that morning. Another envelope slipped under the door. Inside, a single image, my house taken from across the street last night, and scribbled across it in red ink, "Round 2. Max stared at it, jaw tight. "We'll stay somewhere else tonight." "No," I shook my head. "If she wants me to run, she'll win again." "Then I'll stay." That night we slept in shifts. Every sound felt amplified, the ticking clock, the wind outside, even the refrigerator hum. I dozed off near 3 a.m., only to wake at a faint rustling by the window. I reached for the bedside lamp and froze. A silhouette stood in the yard, tall, still, watching. I slipped quietly out of bed, grabbed the phone and pressed record on the video. Max came running from the hallway. "Mom, what is it?" I pointed to the window. "There." But when he looked, nothing. "Just fog. She's playing with us," he whispered. "No," I murmured. "She's warning us." The next morning, we met with Detective Ramos again. He looked older somehow, his usual calm replaced with exhaustion. "She was spotted in 2 different cities last night," he said, spreading photos across his desk. "It's like she's taunting us." One photo made my stomach drop. Lena in a parking lot, hooded but unmistakably smirking at the camera. "Why send me threats if she's on the run?" I asked. Ramos sighed. "Maybe she wants you scared enough to slip up, to make a mistake she can exploit." I leaned forward. "Then I'll do the opposite. I'll expose her." That evening I called a local journalist, one who'd covered our case months earlier. "Mrs. Vale," she said, excitement creeping into her tone. "If you have evidence she's alive, the public needs to know. I have photos, messages, and footage from my cameras. But I'm not doing this for headlines. I'm doing it to end this, understood? We'll run the story tomorrow morning. When the news broke, it spread fast. Woman fakes death, escapes custody. Targets her mother-in-law." My phone buzzed nonstop with calls from reporters, friends, even strangers offering support. But among them was one message that silenced everything. "Nice picture. You look tired, Renata." Attached, a selfie of me taken that morning at the window. That night, I told Max to sleep at a friend's. I needed to handle this alone. When the house finally grew silent, I sat at the kitchen table, every light off, waiting. The moonlight spilled in through the curtains, painting the floor in cold silver lines. Then, a soft click, the back door. I stood slow and deliberate, and moved toward the sound. Another step, the faint creak of the hinge. I gripped the flashlight, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I turned the corner and shone the beam. Lena. Her face was thinner, her eyes wild, but that smirk, the same cruel smirk, hadn't changed. "Miss me?" she whispered. "Not for a second," I said, voice steady. She laughed softly. "You really thought you could destroy me with your little press show? You don't get it, Renata. I am the story. You're delusional." "Maybe. But now everyone's watching. and they'll see exactly who you are." She raised her phone, recording me. "Put it down, Lena." She stepped closer. "Say hello to your audience, Mom." I took one careful step back toward the kitchen counter, where my own phone was already recording. "You want proof?" I said, "Here's proof. Tell them the truth, Lena. Tell them how you faked your death, how you tried to frame me." Her smile faltered. "Stop talking. Tell them," I shouted. "Or I will!" She lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. The flashlight clattered to the floor, its beam spinning wildly across the walls. We struggled, breath ragged, the sound of our scuffle echoing through the house. I twisted free and shoved her back. She stumbled against the counter, knocking over the hot kettle. Steam burst between us, scalding her arm. She screamed and dropped the phone. I snatched it up and hit send, uploading the entire confrontation straight to the cloud and my journalist contact. The kitchen door burst open seconds later, flashing lights. Shouts. Detective Ramos stormed in, gun drawn. "Drop it now!" Lena froze, eyes wide. She attacked me. Ramos picked up both phones, checking the recording on mine, then his expression hardened. "No, Lena. We've got everything." 2 weeks later, she was back in custody, this time under 24-hour surveillance. The story made national news. The video of her confession spread everywhere. I watched it once, just once, then deleted the link. Max came by the next morning. "It's finally over, Mom." "Yes," I said quietly, watching the sunrise through the window. "It's over." For the first time in years, I truly believed it. But deep down, I still checked the locks twice every night, because some ghosts don't haunt houses. They haunt mirrors, memories, and the silence just before dawn. 3 weeks passed before I finally started to breathe normally again. The newspapers had moved on to newer scandals. Lena's face had faded from the nightly news. The world, mercifully, seemed to have forgotten her, but I hadn't. I still woke at 3:14 a.m. sometimes, the exact minute the shadow had first appeared on my porch months ago. And every time I'd reach for my phone, check the cameras and scroll through footage until dawn, just to prove to myself that nothing had changed. Except one morning, something had. There was a new notification from the Cloud app. One motion detected, front porch, 03:13 a.m. My chest tightened. I hit play. The footage was grainy, but there it was again, a single shape standing under the porch light. Not Lena this time. Taller, broader shoulders. The figure bent down, left something at the door, and walked away. When I opened the front door, there was a single black envelope lying on the doormat. No return address. Inside, one photograph. It was of me and Max at the bakery from 2 days ago. He was laughing, flour on his shirt. I was smiling. The photo had been taken from outside the window, through the glass. On the back, one sentence written in block letters, "The game isn't over." I drove straight to the police station. Detective Ramos met me in the lobby, still in yesterday's suit. He frowned when I handed him the photo. "Could be someone copying her," he said. "You've been all over the media." "Sometimes people don't," I interrupted. "Don't tell me it's a prank." "I can feel it." "It's her." He looked at me carefully. "She's in solitary, Mrs. Vale. We have her on camera every hour." "But," he hesitated, "she's been getting mail. None of it signed." "We're checking the sender. Mail. So she still had someone on the outside. Can I see her?" I asked suddenly. He shook his head. "That wouldn't help you." "It would help me sleep," I said. 2 days later, he called. "You have 15 minutes. No contact, no touching, just conversation through the glass." When I entered the visitation room, my pulse thundered in my ears. Lena sat behind the glass, wearing orange, her hair unevenly cut, her eyes still burning with that same cold confidence. "Well, look who it is," she said, smiling faintly. "The woman who finally won." I sat down slowly. "Who's helping you?" She tilted her head. "Helping me? Oh, Renata, you think too small. There's no helping. There's continuing. Someone left a photo at my door." Her smile widened. "Then you got my message." I froze. "But you're locked up? Cameras, guards? Do you really think I'd let 4 walls stop me?" She leaned closer. "Freedom is an idea, darling." And I planted it deep. She traced her finger over the glass in slow circles. "Say hello to your new neighbor, by the way. I blinked. What? Check the house across the street, a guard's voice cut in. Time's up. She blew a kiss and whispered, see you soon. When I got home that evening, a moving truck was parked opposite my driveway. A man in a gray hoodie unloaded boxes marked property of LK Enterprises. My stomach dropped. The next morning, a sleek black car pulled in. A woman stepped out, short dark hair, glasses, polite smile. She looked nothing like Lena, yet when she waved at me from across the street, something in her eyes made my skin crawl. She mouthed one word. Hello. Max came over that night, pacing my kitchen. Mom, you need to leave this house, sell it. Move somewhere quiet. I'm not running again. He exhaled hard. Then at least let me install extra cameras. Fine, I said. But if she wants to play another game, I'll be ready. That weekend, I baked again for the first time in months, real baking, the kind that fills every corner of the house with warmth. The smell of cinnamon and sugar almost felt like peace. Then, around sunset, I heard footsteps on the porch. I turned, wiping my hands on a towel, and saw the new neighbor standing there with a covered dish. I made lasagna, she said through the screen door. Thought we could start on the right foot, I smiled stiffly. That's kind of you. As she handed me the dish, I noticed the faint mark on her wrist, an old burn scar. Just like Lena's. Our eyes met. Her smile didn't reach them. Enjoy it, she said softly. You've earned it, and she walked away. I set the dish on the counter, staring at it as if it might start breathing. My hands shook. I lifted the foil. Inside was perfectly normal lasagna, still warm. But on top, written in sauce, were 2 words, round 3. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window again, just like before, the darkness pressing in around me. Max called twice, but I didn't answer, because this time I wasn't afraid. I was ready. If she wanted another round, she'd get it. But it would be on my terms. I turned off the lights, looked straight at the camera across the street, and smiled. Game on, Lena, I whispered. Game on. The next morning dawned cold and gray, the kind of day where even the sun seemed too afraid to rise. I hadn't slept at all. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind brushing against the shutters made me flinch. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of untouched coffee, staring out the window toward the house across the street. The curtains there were drawn shut. But I could see the faint outline of someone moving behind them, watching me. Max arrived around noon, bringing groceries and that same worried look he'd worn for months. You look exhausted, he said, setting the bags down. I'm fine, I lied. He sighed. You're not fine, Mom. You're obsessed. It's not Lena. It can't be. Then who? I snapped, louder than I meant to. Who moves in across the street? Who sends photos? Who writes round 3 in pasta sauce? He looked at me for a long time, then softened. Okay, he said finally. Let's prove it. We'll find out who she really is. That evening, we waited. The new neighbor, she'd introduced herself as Karen Lewis on a note she left in my mailbox. Left her house around 6 p.m., locking the door behind her and driving off in the same black car. Max and I exchanged a look. Stay here, he said. Like hell I will. We crossed the street together. Hearts pounding, the air thick with dread. Max picked the lock easily. It terrified me how calm he was doing it. Inside, the house smelled faintly of paint and bleach. Too clean, too deliberate. There was barely any furniture. Just a couch, a small dining table, and one single photograph on the wall, a landscape of a coastal road. But when I leaned closer, my blood froze. It wasn't a painting. It was a photograph of me driving home from the market last week. Max whispered, "She's been following you." We checked the rooms. Empty, except for the last door at the end of the hall. Max opened it slowly. Inside was a small desk, a laptop, and a corkboard covered in photos, dozens of them. Every picture was of me gardening, me baking, me talking to Max in the driveway. Some were taken from the backyard, others through the windows. Pinned in the center of the board was a note written in the same red ink as before. Every secret has its mirror. Mom, Max said quietly. We need to call Ramos now, but before he could dial, headlights swept across the living room window. The sound of an engine idling. She's back, I whispered. We ducked behind the couch as the front door opened. The click of heels on tile echoed in the empty space. Then her voice, soft, cold, unmistakable. I knew you couldn't resist. She walked into the living room, phone in hand, recording again. You broke into my house, Renata. Caught on camera. You never learn. Max stood up fast. It's over, Lena. Her eyes flicked to him, and she smiled that same serpent smile. Ah, the loyal son. Always cleaning up her mess. Drop the phone, I said. She tilted her head. Why, this is the finale. Don't you want an audience? She reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver lighter. Let's burn the story together, she whispered. The smell of gasoline hit before I saw the can at her feet. Lena, stop. Max shouted, lunging forward. He grabbed her wrist, but she twisted away, laughing. You think you can erase me again? In the chaos, the lighter clattered to the floor, sparking once, just once, but enough. The flame caught the edge of the rug, then raced across the floor like lightning. Go, Max yelled, pulling me toward the door. Lena screamed behind us, trying to stomp it out, but the fire climbed faster, reaching the walls, the curtains, everything. We barely made it out before the front windows burst with a roar of heat and smoke. Outside, the sirens wailed in the distance. I turned back once. Through the flames, I saw her silhouette at the window, arms outstretched, face lit by orange fire. She was smiling. Hours later, standing in the cold night air, wrapped in a blanket, I watched as the firefighters doused the last embers. Detective Ramos approached, soot on his jacket. No body found, he said grimly. She could have escaped through the back, I nodded numbly. Maybe she's finally gone, Max murmured. I looked up at the smoke curling into the sky and said quietly, or maybe she's just changing shape again. 2 months later, I moved to a smaller house by the coast. I planted lavender in the garden, started baking again, tried to let the past burn away with the old house. One afternoon, while cleaning the porch, I found a small seashell placed neatly by the door. I picked it up, smiling faintly, until I saw the red writing inside it. See you at the shore. The waves crashed softly in the distance. I closed my hand around the shell and whispered, then I'll be waiting.